Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today, I have somebody on the show that's going to talk about his drug addiction and how he came clean. So get you something to drink, get you a snack, and come on back. Seth, why don't we start off with you just sharing a little bit about yourself and who you are?
So I am born and raised in the country, backwoods in Alabama, and I started my journey out. I left school early and started homeschooling and started touring with bands and doing photography.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, and so from the age of 15, I left school and got into a homeschool, and I started doing that while I was on the road. I had a camera, and a huge photographer jumped on the tour with us and taught me everything he knew. So it was self-taught. Um, and I learned that, and as well, that came with that was being with bands and stuff like that, and having to keep up with them is what I thought, and having to keep pace with all the older crowd and whatnot. So I picked up drinking and smoking and using different things very early on, and thought that that was how I got acceptance. Um,
Oh, wow. So was there any drinking or smoking or anything previous to you joining the band?
so I really I started seeking that out I have a friend, which I call a sponsor, and I started actually talking about this today with him, where my addiction probably manifested and where it started was, when I was 7. I was physically abused by family members, as well as molested, and I needed attention, or I felt like I wasn't getting attention, or I deserved certain things. So I would break bones, or I would jump out of trees until I broke something, so I could have people like me, I guess, because I'd have a cast, and they would sign it, and then that would make me feel like I was accepted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So when did you feel like, so we're going to fast forward a little bit. So when you joined the band and you start to be introduced to narcotics, that's the name I'm gonna give
Right.
it. Um, when did things start to escalate out of control? Or when did you know things start to escalate out of control?
So back to what you originally asked was, had I started? Well, I'd taken a prescription of Adderall when I was 7 till I was about 24, and I realized when I was out of my Adderall, I would lash out. So that was the beginning of my addiction. And then I had an older brother and a stepbrother that were way older than me, and they would dabble in other things such as cocaine and marijuana and alcohol. And I would start kind of using it then, but when it started spiraling out of control was by the time I was 16 or 17. I was living on my own and living in a tattoo shop, and then just transitioning from that, and then being in a party house with no family there or anything like that. And I would start just trying new things, hallucinogens and all of that, and they were readily available for me. um, Go ahead.
Oh, no, no, go ahead. No, no.
No. um, and I would just use, because I thought that was social acceptance then, was to use anything I could get my hands on and see how many I could do at the same time. And When it really spiraled out of control, when I was about 18, 18 to 19, I had my first shot at heroin. And
Okay.
the first time I ever used heroin, I snorted it. And then the second day I ever used it was I was using it intravenously. Um, and I can't lie, I loved it. That's how I felt at
Yeah.
the time. It was a different euphoria that I'd never experienced. And
Yeah.
what happened was I caught myself then early on. I mean, it was about a year of use, and I got off of it. And then something larger and traumatic to me at the time happened was um, I was dating this girl. I was 20, 21, 20 or 21, and she got pregnant. 14 weeks in, we had already started coming up with names. I'd had a house and all this stuff. And one day she said she couldn't keep it and she needed to abort it. So that was her choice. And, I stood by her with that. And then um, we got through the abortion. And then one day I woke up and she was gone, couldn't be with me or anything. And then slowly but surely I hit a spiral again, started smoking weed, started with weed and beer and alcohol, and it was nothing. And then before I knew it, I was back into pills, then heroin really quickly. And that started a 6.5 year um, just muck of just using and shooting up every day and do getting means and ways to use became my only focus for so long. My only focus was to get enough money, to get enough heroin, to function. And that
Yeah.
became, I couldn't roll out of bed without putting a needle in my arm, which was rough. It was hard. Even though I sound like I'm just talking about the struggle is what, or that part of my life. It was a struggle, but it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. I got to learn and be in that. Um, and I didn't know how to cope with myself because I felt like I deserved it. Um,
Okay.
but yeah.
It's interesting that you just said you felt like you deserved that. Elaborate on that a little bit for me.
I felt like I deserved it from past traumas. As a child, as I felt like I didn't have anything in my life. I didn't feel like I was worth it, and I didn't feel like people noticed me. I didn't feel like I felt like the only way I would be noticed was if I was destroyed on drugs, just out, which is completely addictive mind, or a mind just telling me something that I thought was real, which is not reality. Reality is not a person wants to see you when you're screwed up. That's not the
Yeah.
case. Um, and from being molested, from my father leaving us, and we were homeless when I was a child, to just not being accepted. My stepfather beat me until I was black and blue, and I felt like I deserved these things. I felt like, okay, I messed up, and this is what happens, and this is what I deserve to do. No one needs to see me, and I will take myself out if anybody, so no one else has to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that's a common way of thinking with people who use alcohol or drugs?
Um, I can't speak for them, but I can speak for my experience, and then a few of my peers that I know that it's a common thing with addiction. It's usually patterns. Like we'll have patterns of certain things, and addiction also is obsessive compulsive because we get obsessed with the ritual of using, and the ritual being like the ways and means of getting it, the preparing it, and then the using it, whatever that might be for that person. It could be smoking a pipe. It could be um, drinking liquor or making mixed drinks. It could be um, an addiction isn't necessarily just drugs, because I find my addiction manifesting in other ways now, even.
Yeah.
I've been clean for a little over 7 months, and I've been working for it for over a year, and I've had significant amount of clean time. White knuckled is what we like to call it, white knuckling, which is not using or going to meetings, but just being abstinent from it and not doing the things that we need to do to actually gain recovery. Recovery comes with people that are also like you, and they work a certain amount of step. They work steps, and they do inside work, because recovery doesn't come from outside; it comes from inside. Um, and it's it is the case for some people, I will say, but some people have other addictions. Like mine now is spending money or eating. I eat more, or obsessing over something. You know,
Yeah.
and that can be addiction in many ways. Smoking cigarettes is an addiction. You know, drinking caffeine is an addiction. Sugar is an addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, wow. Okay. This is very insightful for me. What was your life like during your addiction? Just tell me some of the low points that you hit during your addiction.
Wow. And I like to think of my lowest points as my best points, because they're the points that said, you know, that told me and made me notice this is not for me. This is not the life I want. And unless I do something about that, I'm going to stay here, and I'm not willing to do that. And some of my low points was I've OD'd seven times now, 7 or 8 times, overdosed. I have stolen. I have been to prison for extended lengths of time. I have gotten several DUIs. And even when I got those DUIs, I still thought I was not an alcoholic.
Uh-huh.
Like, um, but you know, I've put other people's lives at risk, and as well as myself. I've been kidnapped. I've been stabbed. I've been beat. I've had guns held to my head. I have lived in some of the crummiest places, in the most inhabitable places. I've been homeless for years. I've had my family reject me and not want anything to do with me. And I've done some things to people and said things to people that I I can only apologize for. I cannot take back.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the family dynamics because I think that's important. Looking back now, because I am a believer that you don't reject somebody just because they're at their lowest point. You know, a lot of people are married, and I hear people wedding vows say, for better or worse, for richer or poor.
Right.
So, and it's just like a family member. You're born into a family, you got best friends or whatever, wife, whatever you got, people have. But sometimes you can't predict the future and you don't know what life holds for an individual. You can only pray and hope for the best. And so I personally don't believe that you just reject a person when they are at their lowest moment. And when a person's at their lowest moments, that's when your love for a person is tested. When things are going great, things are going good, and people are acting the way you think they should be acting, that's not a test. You know what I'm saying? That's
Right.
not a test at all. You're tested, your love is tested for a person when they're not acting the way that you feel they should be acting. Your love is tested when they are doing things to themselves that you think they should be doing better. I mean, if this makes sense to me.
It does.
So how did how did you personally feel when your family rejected you based off your choice of doing drugs? Because that was your choice. It wasn't their choice. It was your choice.
Right.
You know. So and I know they want the best of you. They loved you and things like that, but it was still your choice.
Right.
You know, just like it was your choice to get clean. So how did that make you feel during that time?
Well, at the time, I felt attacked more than anything. Definitely felt attacked.
Okay. I'm
Uh,
taking notes.
yeah, no, you're fine. So at the time, I could not see anything but my way, because when I'm in my addiction, I am selfish and I am doing everything in my power to do for me, and that
Yeah.
it doesn't stop at anything. I mean, like, I've done some terrible things. Like after
Yeah.
my grandfamily passed away, I found some of their old checkbooks. The accounts were closed, but I took the checks, and I
Yeah.
still wrote checks on it and cashed them and all of that. which is something I really regret that I did. But it was for my ways and means of using. And
Yeah.
that's the selfish need of myself and how I developed. But so, and I've done other things, you know, that
Yeah.
sometimes I'll make it okay. I'll reason with myself and say, oh, well, because of this, I can do this and it's acceptable, which is not the case for me now. I'm actually grateful that my family was like, look, we can't keep you here. We can't help you. Um, and that's my support system now, you know, and the support system is huge. And that is the main thing in recovery, because then we know we have something that will still love us and care for us. But if it wasn't for my family to say, look, you have to step away, we have to push you away. You
Yeah.
cannot stay here, and you can't do.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you use, but you
Right.
can't
Right.
do it here. You know,
Right. Exactly.
and if something happens, God forbid something happens, I'm sorry, but I can't have you in here doing this and trying to wreck our life as well as yours, and you're not trying
Right.
to do anything. I
Right.
mean, it's really sad, and it's hard to do. I can only imagine it's hard to do for a parent to do to their child, um, or their, you know, young grown up, whatever you want to call them these days.
Yeah.
Um, but it was the best thing that happened to me, because I hit that bottom, and because everybody's bottom is different. My bottom looks completely different than your bottom, than the
Yeah.
next person's bottom, the next person's bottom. And believe me, I'm at fault for judging somebody's bottom always, because I'm in a relationship with a female that I'm like, she tells me about her bottom, and I'm like, that's not even like, you know, like for some reason my addict mind will judge that. And you know, being clean now and recovering and working on myself, um, I'm finding that I can catch myself thinking these thoughts and being like, that's not right, because her bottom is different than mine. And thank God she didn't
Yeah.
get to where I was at, because I couldn't imagine, you know.
Yeah.
My bottom at some points were while I was still in middle school, going out on break and hitting Freon out of the air conditioners. Like
Yeah.
anything that could have burnt brain cells for me or made me feel a different me, because I was masking the person I was and not wanting to deal with me.
Yeah.
I would do. But in that, I've been pushed out of my family system, support system, often because of my selfish needs. And you know, I fully understand what you're saying about how
So
how
let me say this. So I have a friend who is currently battling alcoholism and pills and things like that. Even just yesterday, he called me on the phone crying because he said he feels pressured by his family, his dad. He said when his sister told him, "I'm just not going to watch you throw your life away," and things like that. And she has a husband who had battled addiction, who was recently clean, but I don't know how clean, but you know. And so he told me, he said, man, you know, every time because he said that his dad told him, well, your sister, she's always crying for you, and is she sad? And he said that when he said that, I just left and I went and got a bottle of liquor, you know. And I don't think they really understand that, because I met with them and I'm telling them, you guys have to step back and pray for him, because you guys are doing more damage than good with your actions and with your words. Yes, you want what's best for him and things like that, but the way his mindset is now, he's so vulnerable and he's so fragile. He's not taking you guys' feedback as support. He's taking it as, you know, pressure. So when they give it to him, it's registering in his mind. Oh my God, they want me to get clean, and they saying this and they saying I did that, and I hurt this person, I hurt that person, and he immediately goes runs for a bottle
right.
or some pills or marijuana. And so that's how his situation is. And I've talked to him about this before, but I don't know how to, you know, like I'm a support system. We all support, I mean, his family and I, we all have a support system for him. I just take a different approach, because I know the more pressure's on him, the more he gonna do. He come to my house, I read with him, I pray with him, I encourage him. You know, he take one day, he cleaned up his room. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, man, I encourage him. That's huge for him. But if he's not cleaning up, oh, there, of course, what he says, they're saying, well, you didn't clean up today. They're picking out all the negative stuff according to him, and he feels worthless. And so when he comes here, I try to find, even if he if he fixed some food and washed some cups and spoons and forks out, I said, okay, man, thank you for washing that out. I said, man, that was good you did that. I appreciate that, because I don't even do that. I try to find good out of things that he does, even if it's something small, and that seems to help him and encourage him.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand exactly what you're saying. I've lived that and been that. That's part of my story at points. And you know, I still deal with. I have a stepfather now that still picks out little things and just pummels me with it, and just like, you know, he'll hold me to what I used to be and stuff like that. And you know, it's just, it takes time. And you know, I fell away from him for so long just because, and I still do to this day. I'll still have arguments with him and all of that, because it's like, I'm trying, I'm doing this, can you not see this and acknowledge that?
Right,
um,
exactly.
and I mean, and what you do is, when you're saying, you know, congratulations, and that's awesome you're doing that, that's really helpful for him and his mentality, because you got to understand that when we're in our addiction, we feed on anything good that happens to us. If we do one thing right, as small as washing a dish, and somebody congratulates us, that'll start a pattern of us starting to do that more, because we feel like that's
Wow.
good and that's helping. And that's how we work in patterns. People that, well, I am an addict completely, even to this day, and I will always admit that, because I'll forever be that person, you know. And uh, I mean, recovery for me isn't going to stop until the day I'm buried in the ground, because I know my mentality and my addictive like how my mind works now, you know. And
Yeah.
that's only from, and that's early on, and I plan on learning, and I'm willing to learn and grow more in that, because I need that. But back to that, yeah, my the best thing I can do is say for that is, you know, what his family's saying about um, they can't deal with him and stuff like that. I had to be put out because of that, because I could
Yeah, yeah,
I would come home. I respected my family's wishes on me not using in their house when they gave
yeah,
me the time to
absolutely.
stay here. So, and actually right now I'm at my family's house, which is uh, a cool thing. I get to be here every now and then. I don't stay here or live here, but I get to come by and hang out and eat breakfast with my family and all that. But I th- I had to just get it for myself, you know,
Right.
and that just
It-
comes in time, and seeing that there's a way, being around people that are comfortable in their recovery and have been where he's at, to show him that, it is possible and
yeah.
great things happen. Because I've been blessed so much in the short time that I have in recovery. Like, I didn't think I was ever going to get a license or a car back after 2 DUIs. I got those 3 months into my recovery, because I could clear my mind a little more and focus on the things I needed to do. I I'm currently working on a full pardon with the state of Alabama, so I can clear my record. I currently got a really good job that I'm passionate about, and I get to do that. I get
Yeah.
to, even with my prison record and the record, I'm still allowed that, which is
Yeah.
incredible. And making a gratitude list every day is something, just for the smallest things. It started with me with the smallest things, that, oh, I can wake up today. Oh, I can open my eyes today. Oh, I
Yeah.
can, gratitude list, and then knowing the person that I am, and getting to know me for who I am, and not masking the things that hurt me so much, is what helped me grow in my recovery and help me get out of that pattern of life.
Nice. At what point did you decide, you had the aha moment, you decide, you know what, I need to get my life together? Because from my understanding, the choice is going to have to be yours. Like, you can have all the people in the world love you. We can send you to support groups. We can send you to rehabs, but it has to be your decision, and you have to do it because you want to do it for yourself. When did you get to that point and start to move towards the road of recovery?
Wow. So I'm just gonna be completely honest.
Yes, let's talk.
Yeah, I started recovery or trying recovery uh, 3 years ago. Um, I'd gotten out of prison. I got here. I moved straight into a place that I never wanted to be, and I didn't know anything about California. And then it was just dope all around me, and I was just throwing it, just because I gotten out, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're just getting out, so here's free drugs and all that." And of course, my addict mind is going to be like, "Well, I'm not using the things that I usually use, um, which would be like opiates and stuff. So I'm not in my addiction." And then that slowly turned into an addiction. That spun out of control really quick here, and then I just jumped on a plane and flew back to Alabama, thinking that was going to help. I went back to the same things. Finally, I realized I needed to go into recovery. My aha moment was, I'm not getting away from this nowhere, no matter where I go, because I'm going to wake up with me anywhere I go. If
Yeah,
I'm waking up with myself and not working on myself, I'm going right back to the same things.
yeah,
Um, so I went into a recovery home in Alabama, and this is going to sound bad, but this is just my truth. Is uh, I called my dope dealer back there, convinced my family that I needed to pay rent and to call this guy in Walmart him money, and they did. And then that was my dope dude. He got it, and he would bring me the drugs to the rehab, and then I would
yeah,
start selling them to everybody, just
yeah,
because that was my addiction. How selfish I was. In the middle of all that, my stepfather's dad had just passed away, and I made it about me, so I could get that money, so I could get that dope. That's how selfish my mind was,
no, I get it. I
and
get
I
it.
needed my fix, and it didn't matter what's going on with you, as long as I got my fix. And I went through that, got caught in all that, and then got thrown out of the recovery program. And then I instantly moved in with a friend and started doing crazier things, and then wound up homeless with all my things stolen. Started traveling the whole Southeast, wound up in New York, in a borough in New York, and this kid came up to me, and he was 17, and he said, "This doesn't look like your gig." I had some clean time then. I was uh, just kind of barebacking it, trying to get it, and he said, "This doesn't look like your thing. Where do you call home?" And this is really my aha moment. Was a 17-year-old kid coming up to me saying, "You need to do something that you love, and you need to find your passion. And where do you call home?" With that, I told him that I thought maybe Sacramento, because that's where my family lived, and I was just so lost at that point. Um, he told me to look up a plane ticket, and this is pure God showing up in my life, or my God, or higher power. Higher powers is the main thing in the programs that I work, which is you find a higher power of your belief, because if you find the one that you believe, mine I call God, choose to call God. And I don't really like to speak about mine so much, just because I don't want people to make opinions or make all their judgments off of that. But mine sent this kid in my life. He is not by the same religious following as me, I guess you could say. It's more of a spiritual realm, I guess, maybe. And he bought me a plane ticket from New York to Sacramento, and I got here and got into a program, the BART program, which got me off of opiates and got me off of everything that I needed. And then I immediately went from there into a recovery home. My aha moment was somebody saying, "What do you love to do and what makes you happy?" And actually was there to give me give me a boost. And that is what I call God showing up in my life when I really needed it. Because I'd already started the little recovery process, and I knew that I couldn't function on drugs or alcohol because I just don't have an off switch. For some people, they can. I
Yeah,
just know that I cannot. There's no way I could have one drink and it not turn into me going to jail, or me going on a binger of everything. because I just don't have that power to shut off. I have OCD, obsessive compulsive, and I have an addictive personality. And you know what? Saying that today, I'm okay with. Back in the day, I would not be okay with saying that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Seth, we have hit our benchmark for the show, meaning that we are at the end of this particular show. So I want to thank you for doing this first segment with me. That's it for today's edition of Mental Health Matter. If you enjoyed hearing Seth's story about how he came to the road of recovery, please dial 916-366-4600. We can get you a copy of the DVD. Or if you would like to be a guest on the show, please dial 916-366-4600. Thank you.